Ooh.
Okay, awesome. So, welcome to the Inspiration Hour with Luz. And I'm so excited to introduce my good friend Jasmine. And before I get into introducing Jasmine, I need to tell you a little bit about her. She is a mental health counselor who's located in Bronx, New York, and experienced working with sexually exploited girls, young adults, children, and at-risk families, using an eclectic approach tailored to the unique needs of each new client. And also, she holds a master's in mental health counseling and is the proud daughter of a retired New York City Department of Education principal, which explains a lot her passion for education as well as wellness. So, welcome, Jasmine.
Hi. Thank you
Hi.
for having me, Luz. Thank you.
So, okay, truth be told, I met Jasmine through a common friend. And when we first met, this was what I got from Jasmine. She has like this real down to earth vibe. And it's just like she's a magnet. As soon as you meet her, you're like drawn to her. She's fun, she's bubbly, and you kind of need that energy. And she's the perfect person to have as at a party. Like you just need a Jasmine in your life. And that's how I define you. So, can you share a little bit about you? How do you see yourself and all the things you're doing in your life?
Sure. So all the things that I'm doing in my life. Okay. So I kind of feel like as a kid, I was kind of bred for this. And seeing as my mom was she was a principal, but growing up, she was a teacher, New York City Board of Ed, teacher. She taught special ed. And every year, my mother was like, Jasmine, you are not allowed to be in the city. I'm sorry.
Why was
This place
that?
is, yeah, it was like you're not allowed to be in the city. She knows, I'm also not only am I her daughter, but I also have nothing but boys in my family. So I feel like sometimes like I want to do what they do,
So,
and I
do,
want to be out and I want to do this and
do you feel, and I have to relate to this experience, men had a lot of leeway in my family growing up to do a lot of the fun stuff, and
yeah.
girls had to be responsible because we were taught to be the caretakers and we're taught to, help men's life easier. Do you feel like you were kind of like put that pressure, like in a not like such a bad way, but it was like, hey, these are your little responsibilities. We got to start grooming you to be like this
Yeah.
up, like this marvelous woman that you are. But at first, as a child, it doesn't seem real cool, like the guys have all the fun.
They have all the fun and they get to, if my cousin Jason didn't want to go to school, he didn't have to go to school. I had no choice in the matter. Girlfriend, you're going to school. I'm sorry, you're going to school and you're going to school and you're going to school. Unless you have a fever, you are not going to stay home. So mommy pushed for a lot of that. And it was a little bit, they get to do a little bit, explore. And then I had to be home and doing something very structured all the time. And so my structure was, during the year, we went to school as I got older in high school and whatnot. I went to camp and I eventually became a camp counselor. I thought of it. Yeah, I thought of it. I was like, I just want to get paid to play. Little
But
did
like
I
your mom
know.
had no introduction to that. But
She did. She did. Like in her life growing up,
yes,
mommy had
like
that.
meaning
No.
like saying like I want you to work, like try testing the waters to see things you like, since school was such a important.
My mom was really cool at being well-rounded. And my mom really, pushed other things. Not everything, Jasmine, has to be academics. You could be great at other things and arts and, pursue your what you want to do. And I was just like, Mom, it's summertime. I don't mind being up in the Catskills for the summer and being around, friends, boys, boys
Of course,
at that
I
time.
was interested in boys at a young age, like in
Yeah.
my teenagers, but my mom was so strict. I could only see them from afar. Like I could go watch the basketball games, I could go support them. Ooh, are
No,
we
it's
on?
okay. I
Okay.
see you now. Yeah, we're good.
So I couldn't really talk to boys, but it was always fun to look at them from afar and look at them at church or look at them wherever I was allowed to. But it was like a no boy zone. My mom was pretty adamant about that. And we were a lot of girls in the household,
How many sisters
opposite to
did
you.
you have?
So it was three girls, right? One boy, and he was the oldest. And every year my mom and dad will explain to us why boys were gross. So every year we would get traumatized and we will be like, but they look so good. When we were teenagers, it was only natural, but it's nothing like now. But I want to get to this is so much fun. Like, how did you get into the idea that you wanted to be a mental health professional? Because I think especially in New York City, we know that it's a real crisis to get good care, especially because we're coming from Black and Brown communities, that trauma is not really spoken about. It's tiptoed around in the Black and Brown communities, as well as not accepted. Like, we rely on church, we rely on our elders, but we do not rely on professionals.
No.
So what made you, being a Spanish woman, get into this?
Oh boy. Okay. That's a good story. So I got a good stories for you.
Okay.
So growing up, my mom, we're Latinos and we throw parties. And instead of going out place, we used to throw parties. And so, my parents would throw parties, but always the kids had to be in a separate room. You can't be with the grown-ups. Tú te quedas ahí en el cuarto, and that's where you stay. And so my uncle, he was like my godfather, so to speak. And he was like, oh, I knew him initially as like a friend of the family, and then later on I found out that he was really related. Nonetheless, his name is Apache Ramos. Apache was very important to me because he used to get a little tipsy and have his little rum and coke and come into the room with the kids. And of course, you want to be around the kids. We were very lively. So he was an HRA worker in the 80s.
Oh,
And
wow.
he started working with the HIV patients. And patients that at that time that was like condemned, they didn't really want to do that. So he used to come in and just be a little slurry, but really cool and be like, Jasmine, come on, let me talk to you. And he used to try to start to tell me about transgender. And at that time, if you know, just a frame of reference, Paris is Burning, he was around that time. So he told me about that. And I just thought that the stories that he told me, and I was a kid, and that stood with me. That stood with me. And I used to tell Mommy, I want to do this. Uncle Pachi was telling me this, and I was thinking about this, maybe a teacher or whatever. And Mommy was like, well, if you want to teach, Nana, you can. I'm here. I'll help you. I'll guide you. So later on, I'm in grad school. I'm an undergrad, and I was just like, I can't just do behavioral science. I need something else. Something else needs to be more impactful on my community because, ever since I went to undergrad, I was working in a service-oriented profession. I was always in social service agencies and whatnot. And, I just liked talking to people. And my mother used to tell me when I was young, you like talking to people? No, es Jasmine que le gusta el bochinche.
But you know what? I'm sorry to interrupt your story, because I
Oh,
actually
no.
think it's kind of fascinating. You had someone already in the mental health service they're kind of like sharing all this knowledge with you, because not a lot of us get that. We have the uncle that is like the drunk guy that wants to say all the wild stories and doesn't really
Yeah.
edit themselves, or like the one that wants to share all the funny inappropriate jokes about Pepito or whatever. But
Exactly. Oh, you
you
remember
had
the
an
time?
uncle that at least was knowledgeable enough to be like, I want to talk to the kids and let them know what's going on, so they're aware. So it felt like you had the perfect person to kind of like plant that seed in you. And we're both women and we're both talkers, and I think it's really important to share that as a friend, and knowing you personally, you're like a very caring individual. When you talk to someone, like, you really try to be receptive and listen to them, and that's kind of like a rare gift. Not all of us have it. Some of us are really bad at listening to others. I know I've been bad at that every now and then. So I think that's one of the like the gifts that you have that most mental health professionals need. But getting back to your story, now you're in undergrad, you need something else. What was it
Yeah.
that made you say like, okay, I'm really going to go for this?
Well, when I was in undergrad and you come out of, undergrad, and you're just like, I want to save the world. My father was a cop. My mother was a principal. I want to do something different. But what they did was very, to me, authoritative. And it was and I was like, I don't want to do that. People don't respond to that. Our communities do not respond to that. I'm going to try a different way and try to really, really listen. And that was my motive. And I learned to do that when I worked at Gems, when I worked with the girls, the sexually exploited youth. And you had to be a certain way to work there. And I never knew. You had to be young. You had to be kind of just like with it, straight out of college. And, you couldn't look too professional because they wouldn't talk to you. These are
Yeah.
young girls who have defense mechanisms and that are very image based. And so you have to look approachable. You have to, and I was able to do that. And then when I was there, I really learned that these girls have so much trauma.
Yeah.
It's trauma that a teenager should not be able to bear. This
Yeah.
is trauma that not even an adult can bear. They know no better. Their home is no good. So they looked for refuge outside. When they looked for refuge, trauma came to them again. All they knew was that. They knew was that. No was that. And it's like, no, beating does not equate to love. I'm going to show you what it's like to let me be a role model for you to show what it's like to listen and what it's like to sometimes it gets really loud
In
in
their
here.
heads. Yeah.
But it does. It gets very loud and they can't even hear you. And so when they have to learn how to quiet these, I wouldn't say voices,
But
but
like
these
these
inner
negative thoughts, it could
conversations.
have been like this
Right,
past trauma recollected.
right,
So how did you make
right.
sure that you were like their anchor to normalcy while they were being
Mhm.
flooded by negative thoughts? Because that's hard, because that's part of something that a mental health professional like yourself must go through. And I have to admit, like, I was be after I got my, like, I was in the midst of getting my bachelor's degree. I decided to work in a substance abuse program as like one of those social work trainee individuals. And I remember that I would get all dressed up because I wanted to look professional. But you're right, people didn't respond well, like they hated it. And a lot of the workers were like really burnt
Oh,
out.
mhm.
So they just looked at you as a kid. But I think one of the most traumatizing things for me is knowing all the baggage people come with, and you're trying to help, and knowing that they'll time and time again fall into the traps of substance abuse, like hurting themselves, like in a traumatizing family. And I remember feeling very powerless. And I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone goes through that. But for
Mhm.
me, it was different. I was like, I don't think I could do this. Like, I just but you are like the one rare person I know that's like, I could do this and more. Like you just say it with love. And I think I would like to know, what is that secret sauce that carries you through?
Really realizing that my family came from the projects. My family came from Patterson Projects. My father's from Brook Avenue, and that hard work does pay off. And as long as you have your family, and it might sound a little, off the wall, but if you have your family and a higher power, that's your anchor. That was my anchor. That was the fact that I had good friends. I had friends who were in the same, like field as I was. They were either teachers or they were either social workers or something of that nature. And I just felt like, I can't allow society to break the people that I love, the communities that I've grown up in, the playgrounds that I've been, my fulana de tal who lives down the hallway, senora who opens the project's doors, like those, that's my community. I need to protect that. And I knew that it was bigger than me. My parents showed me that it was bigger than me. And my grounding was always, you know what, Nina, you're lucky. You're lucky because not everybody has what you have. And for me to be humble enough to really recognize that young, I went to school, I was labeled the rich girl because I lived in a house. But I went to school on 100th Street because I went to performing arts because I could dance. And that's how I got out of trouble. And that's how I stood out of trouble. I went to Albanelli, Ballet Hispanico. It was not a game. My mother was like, you have a talent. We're going to feed that. And I guess it trickled into every facet of my life. And I think
Wow,
that
you
was,
like took me to church, because when you said about protecting your community and then how you were kind of centered by God, your family, and all the good things your family invested in you, I really am hearing from you. Not a lot of people get that, which it's true. And
Mhm.
I see it, and it's really hurtful. There's a lot of hurt people there. And it seems like you want to make sure that you are like something positive out of their life. And I see that more and more when we talk, and when we talk about mental health and things like that, because it's something you can't avoid in our communities. You see it like when you even get on the train, like people that are not doing well, like they're talking to themselves or they're fighting by themselves. And it's like so much anger because they're coming from tough situations. Now, I kind of want to ask another question for you. I'm
Sure.
curious to know, you going through this journey, learning at a young age you wanted to do this, and I'm sure your family is very proud of everything that you have accomplished. If you hadn't become a mental health counselor, knowing everything you know now, what would you chosen for yourself? Because there's never a minute that you're like, maybe I could have done this, because
You're gonna
because
make me cry.
because you know why I like to ask this, because I know everyone has like different facets to your life, like because you're really also good at like other things that I'm like always shocked at. And I know that you in your life one day you'll hope to go after it.
I mean, it's a nice dream, but I think that dream, and not that it's past, but I was able to do a lot real young. And meaning, I was the right place, the right time. I knew because of my family that I was safe and I wasn't afraid to perform. And I wasn't afraid to look what I can do. And I used to dance at the family parties. I used to dance with Titi in the mirror. And my Titi was fabulous. There wasn't a lot of men in my family. So I knew that she was fabulous because the way we were protected. So I knew that. I was like, she's doing something right. Plus, I thought my aunt was just the most beautiful thing. My mother as well. They were the essence of glamour. So I thought, I was around a lot of arts, a lot, a lot. And so I went to, like I said, I went to Ballet Hispanico real young. I went to Alvin Ailey, and I would have danced. But I knew, and I had to put the big girl hat on at the time. I knew that my over by 27, Broadway or not. That's it. I knew it, and I knew it, and I was like, no, I need longevity. I need roots. I need, and I need to make a bigger difference. That's nice. That's good for when, that's what I did in college. I taught autistic kids to dance. That's what I did.
And that's
Like
amazing.
combine. Oh, thanks. I mean,
No,
that's what I
to
wanted to
teach
be.
autistic kids to have fun and dance in their own power. That's how many people say they got to do that. And I really wanted to bring that out of you because I know you have an artistic quality. So you're
Yes.
like this mental health professional and also an awesome dancer, which I hope one day you could defy Broadway and everything else and know that you could still go after dancing even past 27. I'll just say it like that. I wanted to ask also, if you were to give someone or a younger you advice, what will you give a younger Jasmine as advice on how to go for a career path and what to look for in a future? Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of professions are not really spoken about clearly, like what to expect when we're in college. And it's really nice to have a friend or a titi or like a cousin like you who could be like, listen, if you go into this profession, this is what you'll learn. This is like the salary, like the most you'll make, or this is how you could grow, or this is the impact you'll have. Like none of that stuff is really shared, unfortunately, because in our communities, we're mostly concerned about securing the bag, like securing the job and making sure we have a stable check. But it's more about that. It's more about happiness, like finding that, like what you said, making a difference. So what advice will you give?
That's a really good question, Luz, because, when you want to talk to your younger self, I would want to be like, listen, Jazz, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. Number one, number one, Jazz, don't let anybody ever say that you can't. Don't let ever anybody say that you're not good enough. Don't let
Love it.
people's, and I know you know this well, don't let people's insecurities, okay, affect you.
Or determine you, or like
Don't dim your life. Right. Don't dim your light for anyone, whether it be this light here in your body, whatever it may be. Find what works best, something that can fulfill your spirit and fulfill those around you. You're going to fall. You're going to fall quite a bit. And that's okay, as long as you get back up. Because people are watching you. People are watching you. People are watching you. They need to know what to do. They need to know how to react. And it's okay if you cry, and it's okay if you, pardon my French, you fuck up, and that's all right. You can make it better. Um, and I think that we can be our worst enemy. Please, oh boy, I have been my worst enemy where no, I can't, no, I can't. Self-doubt was creeping, but I was just like, that don't live in that place. Don't live in that place. Shake it off. Eventually you can, but don't stay there, and do what you love. Do what makes you smile from your toes. Do what makes you get butterflies, when a patient hugs you because you were just there. Something as simple as just being in the room. I didn't realize how impactful that was. I always felt like I had to be doing something. Tú tienes que hacer algo. You got to do something. You got to do this and that. Keep it moving. That's our community and survival mode. Always. You got to be doing something, hustling somehow, doing something, helping Fulana, help yourself, but you got to help her upstairs and downstairs. Ella se que, the kids could stay here. Don't want things like that. So, did I go off track?
No, first of all, you're so good. I think like the part that touched me and I was quiet and just like seeing you in your glory, explain the advice you would give yourself. Because honestly, you're right. We're coming from these communities that we're so focused on like doing what's next, that we never validate that we're enough. And also we never validate that
each other
and that it's okay to make the mistakes. We need to make the mistakes because there's always a next day for us to get up. We're learning from those mistakes, believe it or not. So I want to transition into a bit of a fun part since we're coming to a close. And You shared a lot of advice and you share a lot about your journey as a mental health professional, but also like the impact you're doing, because I understand how hard it is and I commend you for the work you're doing, because it's not just about one or two people, it's helping communities that we're coming from because you care about them. And but people should know why you're so fun, like besides being a mental health professional. So I usually like ending this podcast by playing a game called Finish the Sentence. So I will say a statement or a word and you'll say like the first thing that pops into your head. So my dream vacation is
Bali.
Ooh, that's a good one. I've been feeling very like going to Rome like lately. Like I want to go to. I went to Amalfi Coast when I got married and I always said I always wanted to see the Vatican next. And of course that didn't happen. My husband trapped me and that was it. After the honeymoon, that was it. He goes, here's a nice tour of the Bronx. I can't live without. What's that one thing you can't live without? Like you have to have it every day.
Candles.
Really? I was gonna say I can't live without like my oils for my face. I like to use them a lot so I can let my skin rest. That's kind of like a new one, but candles, I always get addicted and then I stop getting addicted. Maybe I'll get addicted to them again. They do smell delicious. What's your favorite food? And I know this one's a tough one because
I love food.
Exactly.
I'm a small woman, but I love Thai food.
Ooh, I had chicken pad see ew not too long ago, and I was so mad because it was okay. And you know when you had really good pad see ew and you're really craving it, like I was just like, I'm like, okay, wasn't it? I was like, I was about to hit every time place. Okay, what's your biggest inspiration?
My mother.
I had a feeling you're going to say that because you and your mommy are so close.
My mother and my grandmother.
Amen. My grandmother is to me.
Mm-hmm.
People describe you as
sexy bubbles.
That's a new one. You know what? I usually end with this, but
I want to make you laugh.
People should describe you as sexy bubbles. When I first met you, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so attractive. And I say that like, obviously with a lot of admiration as a woman to woman, you're very attractive. but you're also so fun. Like there's nothing, like you really are that magnetic person that brings people together, and your personality makes everyone feel at ease and, you know, welcome. But I think one of the things that I really want to end with is saying that is not just your allure, how you handle life. It's just the fact that you care so much. And it's like so transparent that when you meet people, you want to know about them and you want to just take care of them, which is such a beautiful thing about you. And I want to commend you for the work you do, because it's evident, because it's not, it doesn't carry over in the workplace only, it carries over everywhere with your friends, to like how you interact with people, even going to dinner with you, how you are, you're just like very helpful. And I just think that's beautiful. And I want to just say, I love you dearly. And I thank you so much for doing this, because I want to
Oh, thank
highlight
you for
the
having
great
me.
person you are. And people should admire you for this.
Thank you. Oh, Luz. I
Oh,
was like, this is such a pleasure. I was
awesome.
humbled just to have even been asked. I was like, I've never been on a podcast before. I'll try it. Okay.
So I will let you know once it's chopped up and edit and things like
Yeah.
that. But anyways, I want to say good night. I'm going to let you relax, you sexy
Thank
bubble. And that's going
you.
to be a new one. I think that next time we talk, I'm going to be like, hey, sexy bubble. Anyways, have a good night, my love.
All right, babe. Mwah.
Bye. Ooh.
Bye.